Hey guys, what's up? Today I'll show you the 20 best JRPGs with multiple protagonists. I'm not talking about the ones that only have 2 protagonists. No, I'm talking about the ones with 3 or more protagonists. And you're probably thinking, why a top 20? Why not a top 50 as I did last week, the one with the female protagonists? Well, there aren't 50 as a matter of fact, at least not localized outside of Japan. And of course, I'm not including those games where you fill your party with generic protagonists that never say a word in the entire game, like the Etrian Odyssey or the Wizardry games. Come on, those don't count. I'm talking about the ones with actual characters, all of them with personalities, and all of them released outside of Japan. So let's begin! Number 20, Dragon Valor. This game is an action RPG that plays as a generational story. Depending on your choices, you'll marry the first protagonist, Clovis, to one of the 2 female characters, and then you'll play as their kid on the next chapter. 2 more choices will be present there and also influence whom you'll play as on the 3rd chapter. Because of this, Dragon Valor has strong replay value, at least just to see who the other protagonists are. Number 19, Record of Agarest War. 3 games belong to this series, all of them with multiple protagonists by the way, but I chose the best one, which is actually the first of them all and the longest. Again, it's a generational adventure. You'll play with 1 male protagonist each time and you'll have to marry 1 girl of your choice to have a kid. Then you'll play as the kid who will also have to do the same, rinse and repeat until the 5th and final generation. This game is great, but it's very grindy and hard. I thought the generational feature was cool though. Number 18, Summon Night 6. This is a crossover strategy RPG that has characters from all the main Summon Night games. It makes you believe Rush is the main character as the first several hours of the game focus on him. That is until it abruptly switches to Amu, who's living in a similar situation to Rush, and then all of a sudden your MC is East, and you'll play several missions with him too. When all 3 parties meet up, you can choose who will be the protagonist out of the 3, but you'll still get the same endings, so yeah, this JRPG has 3 main characters. Number 17, Legend of Lagaya. This game has only 3 playable characters that are just as important to the story. First, you play as Vaughn's prologue, a character kind of advertised as the protagonist, as the hero, except he really isn't. Then you'll play with Noah and then with Gala. Honestly, all 3 characters feel just as important throughout the story. It may be up for debate whether Vaughn is a true MC or not, but maybe I was just looking for an excuse to include this forgotten game on the list. Number 16, Romancing Saga. This is a remake of the original game on the Super Famicom we never got. You can choose between 8 different main characters and the story will revolve around the one you choose. However, some of the other main characters can also be recruited depending on the situation. Surprisingly though, the game isn't really character driven no matter who you choose, as it is kind of an open world adventure. There's 2 more games in this series, but I've only played this one. But I believe, like in all Saga games, every single one of them have multiple protagonists. Number 15, Fuga, Melodies of Steel. This is a game with a lot of protagonists, and not a single one stands out as the lead. 12 children lead the story, and they're all equally important in the search for their families during a horrible war. The usual guy and girl will appear to take the least at first, but sooner than later, there will be zero distinction on who's the MC. Man, I hope this game gets a physical release one day. Number 14, Wild Arms. The first game in this Forgotten series has 3 main characters, Rudy, Cecilia, and Jack. You will have to play through each one's prologues until they join forces. There are no other playable characters in this game besides those 3. And while the main story occasionally focuses on Cecilia's quest and troubles, it does feel like the other 2 characters are just as important depending on the events, including the ending. Anyway, this is a classic on the PS1 and a must play. Number 13, Trials of Mana. One more time, we're talking about a game where you yourself choose who you want to play as out of the 6 main characters. You can only have 2 more party members, and they can also be the main characters, but you'll get the ending of the one you chose at the beginning. And the story will focus on him or her, by the way. Most of the events of your 2 party members will be optional. You can also see their stories and all that jazz, although that's a feature only the remake has. Number 12, The Alliance Alive. The Alliance Alive will make you think there's only one main character named Khalil on the human side. That is until you'll jump to control Vivian on the demon side. And then there's other characters you'll control, so the confusion will start spreading. The story very rarely focuses on only one of them though. This is similar to the Final Fantasy IX situation at first, but there Zidane is the MC, no questions asked. It's pretty much impossible to decide who's the lead here after a while, to be honest. So to me, it simply has multiple protagonists. Number 11, Wild Arms 2. Once again, we meet 3 different protagonists, and once again you'll have to beat their prologue chapters first before they meet up to join forces. Sometimes the story's attention will focus on Ashley, who's looking for his sister, but Lilica and Brad often take the lead on certain events. I actually never felt one character was more important than the other, but it does seem to favor Ashley above all a little bit. Kinda like in Wild Arms 3, except that one focuses way more on Virginia than anybody else. In Wild Arms 4 and 5, they only have one predetermined protagonist. Number 10, Spectral Souls. This one on the PSP, PC and iOS has 3 different protagonists. One of those where you can switch to their armies at any given time, Nace of the Simba army, Hiro of the Neverland army, and Mew of the Roses army. Near the end of the game though, you'll have to decide which army will lead the final battle, but the rest of the game will be told through their 3 different perspectives. This game is a massive grindfest, but the story is very rewarding. Number 9, Ys Origin. You're thinking I'm breaking my own rule since I said no games with 2 protagonists. Well, if you beat the game with both Unica and Hugo, the main characters, you will unlock the 3rd protagonist, and that gives you a different perspective on the game's story. Obviously, there's 3 different endings depending on the character you beat it with. It's an excellent action RPG available on a lot of platforms, so give it a try if you can. Number 8, Octopath Traveler. This is one of the most common examples nowadays of a JRPG with multiple protagonists. There's 8 of them, but you have to choose only one. You can recruit the other 7 and play their entire stories with the rest of the party, but the game will end once you've beaten all chapters of the character you chose. That kinda kills its replay value, but at least you get the whole experience in one playthrough with all 8 characters, no matter who you choose at the beginning. Number 7. 13 Sentinels Rim. As its title implies, the game has 13 protagonists. Nobody feels like the lead character, even if the cover shows otherwise. Every single one of them is just as important to unravel the plot and its mysteries. You'll be switching constantly between them, but only for the 2D story sequences. Watching certain events unlocks others, and so on. During battle, you'll have all of them pretty much from the start of the game. That's all I'll explain to avoid spoilers. This game has a great story, guys. Very, very recommended. Number 6. Eternal Poison. This gothic strategy RPG has 3 initial main characters. You start with Thage, of course, but that's only for the tutorial. Later you'll be able to choose between her, Oliphant and Ashley, but you'll have to do all 3 of them if you want to unlock the 4th main character, Rondamion, who also unlocks the final boss and the game's ending. There's a 5th main character, but it's optional, although unlocking it is a pain in the ass, as you have to capture every single type of monster in the game, including the bosses. Number 5. Eternal Sonata. The story of this game keeps coming back to Frédéric Chopin, who believes he's living a dream on his final days. But the game focuses a lot at first on Polka, a flower seller who can use magic, and Allegretto, a poor thief who takes care of the orphans. Once all characters meet up and join forces, the attention focuses on the one thing that brought them together. But I'd say it's pretty clear Chopin, Polka, and Allegretto are pretty much the 3 main characters here. This is another must-play masterpiece, by the way. Number 4. Final Fantasy VI. This is the most popular game in this list, and it is the first one people think of when they hear multiple protagonists. Sure, some of them feel kind of irrelevant, mainly for being optional, but the game has at the very least 5 that feel just as important. No, the game doesn't focus on Terra, even though it was advertised as if she was the main character. Play it and you'll see that she's merely only one of the main characters. Number 3. Suikoden 3. The only Suikoden in the series with more than one main character, and none of them are silent. There's 4 of them here, initially 3, but you unlock the 4th one not too long after. You've got Chris, she's a captain of the Saxon Knights, Hugo, the son of the Karayan chief, Gidoe, or Guido, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, he's a mercenary, and Thomas, the son of a certain count. Yes, you have to play with all of them, but in any order you want. The entire game is told through their different points of view, but near the end, you'll have to choose who'll be the true and final hero, but not much changes really. It is a game that feels told in 4 different points of view, and there's a 5th main character, but that's a spoiler. Number 2. Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade. This is the only game in the series where there's 3 main characters. No, 3 houses doesn't count, there's only one and it's Byleth, male or female. All others have either one main character or 2 at the most. However, this game in particular focuses on Eliwood once the 3 main characters join forces, but the game still treats the other 2, Hector and Lyn, as if they were protagonists the entire adventure, and hell, the first 10 chapters of this game are owned by Lyn and only Lyn. And if we get even more picky, you are the protagonist, the player. But the game treats you like a silent strategist that never speaks, pretty much the player, you do nothing, you don't play, you're just barely there. Yeah. So while being very high on this ranking, you could say it barely made it. Number 1. Odins Fear. Every time I think of a game with multiple protagonists, this is the first one that immediately comes to my mind. I love it so much that I believe it's the exemplary game of this video. 5 different protagonists here, and nope, no one stands out, each of them are just as important. You start with Gwendolyn the Valkyrie, then Cornelius the Cursed Prince, Mercedes the Fairy Princess, Oswald the Shadow Knight, and Velvet the Forest Witch. All 5 stories heavily intertwining, and yes, you have to play with them all in order to unlock the 5 final bosses and the game's ending. This is a masterpiece and I think very highly of it, but I'm pretty sure you already knew that. Alright guys, the list could go on with games like the Bravely Default series, for example, or Rage Gigant on the PS Vita, but I never finished that game, or games like Dragon Force on the Sega Saturn, which is pretty much the daddy of the Brigantine games. But I'm pretty sure the comment section will be full of all of these honorable mentions. So that's it for me, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!